Bella Dreesen, a volunteer preserve steward here at Arcadia Dunes, the C.S. Mott Nature Preserve. Today we're at Pete's Woods for part 2 of spring wildflowers, and it's now mid-spring. Mid-spring is marked by the trees are starting to leaf out, but there's still a lot of light on the forest floor. Trillium are in bloom. I'm wearing my Trillium shirt today. And we'll be hearing a lot more bird song. A lot of the migratory birds have returned. Some of them will be passing through, but we'll hear probably 6-8 species on our walk. A few things have changed since a couple weeks ago. The early wildflowers. The hepatica and bloodroot are done. Dutchman's breeches is pretty much done. Squirrel corn was in bud last time. They're still in bloom. Trout lily, we might find one or two holding on, but they're pretty much done. So let's see what's blooming today. These two plants here are Jack in the Pulpit. Most everybody knows Jack in the Pulpit. The flower has a tubular leaf-looking piece that's the pulpit called a spathe, and inside the spathe is a club-like structure, which is Jack in the Pulpit. We have two plants here. This one has one leaf, this one has two leaves. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that Jack in the Pulpits have separate male and female plants. The male plant typically has one leaf, the female has two. The flower parts with the reproductive pieces are down at the bottom of the pulpit, down at Jack's feet. So on a male plant, this is the male plant with one leaf. Down at the bottom of Jack is the flowering parts that create the pollen. On the female plant, if you look down, I'm going to open the pulpit a little bit, and then you see those green little green pea-shaped things with the little white piece on top. That's the female, the ovaries. And if this plant would be pollinated, then those would turn into the red-orange berries that you see later in the summer. So this one, usually the males are smaller plants with one leaf. The females are larger with two leaves. So this one is, you can call him a Jack in the Pulpit. This one, maybe we should call her a Jill in the Pulpit. They pollinated. Well, these have to be pollinated. They need a pollinator. They can't self-pollinate. They're separate female and male plants for the most part. There are some Jack in the Pulpits that have both flower, male and female, but mostly they're separate. So they need a pollinator. Jack in the Pulpit is pollinated by a fungus gnat. It's a little fly, and the fungus gnat feeds on fungus, decaying things in the forest. Well, the Jack in the Pulpit emits a fungal odor that attracts the fungal gnat. The fly will fly into the flower and then fall down to the bottom. They're not good at flying vertically up and down, and the sides of the pulpit, the spathe, are slippery. So when they get down to the bottom of a male plant, they'll get covered with the pink pollen. They won't be able to climb back up. But a male plant, it's hard to see on this one, but there is a little opening at the bottom where the fly can escape. They can go to another male plant, they'll follow the bottom, get covered with more pollen, and they'll escape. If they come to a female plant, they'll follow the bottom, and there's no way to escape. They're going to die in the bottom of the female plant, the flower, but they'll fertilize the plant. Another interesting thing is that this plant here is a female. Maybe next year it'll come back as a male. If the root storage doesn't have enough energy in it, the next year a plant might come back as a male. It takes a lot more energy to grow fruits. So if there's enough energy stored in the root structure, you can get a female plant. If that energy is depleted, maybe next year this will come up as a male plant. The seeds of the Jack in the Pulpit can be dispersed by turtles, birds, or rodents. This is a good place to show two plants with similar names, Solomon seal and false Solomon seal. This is Solomon seal. It's an arching stem with alternate leaves. The blossoms of Solomon seal are just going to be green flowers, bell-shaped. They're buds now. But if you lift up the leaves, you can see that the buds are attached to the leaf axils, which means wherever a leaf is attached to the stem is where you'll see the flowers. This is false Solomon seal. Similar arching stem, alternate leaves. But on false Solomon seal, the flowers, this is a bud, the flowering is all in a cluster out at the end. One easy way to remember is a little rhyme. Solomon seal, to be real, has its flowers along the keel. These are the two most common violets we have here at Arcadia Dunes, native violets. The one that's white with little yellow centers is Canada violet. The yellow one is downy yellow violet. You can just call it yellow violet. This plant here is a toothwort. This particular one is the broadleaf toothwort. There's also a cutleaf toothwort, but this is the broader leaf toothwort. It's small white flowers with 4 petals. Flowers with 4 petals are distinctive of plants in the mustard family, and toothworts are in the mustard family. It's got its name because of the root storage structure. I guess looks something like a tooth. But the interesting story is the West Virginia white butterfly is a butterfly that lays its eggs on plants in the mustard family, including the toothworts. West Virginia white is a small little white butterfly. We've seen it on this hike today. They lay their eggs on the leaves of the toothwort. The caterpillars will then, when they're out, they'll chew the leaves. But in parts of the country, the West Virginia white butterfly is becoming more rare and threatened because their forests are becoming overrun with garlic mustard. Garlic mustard is an invasive species that's also in the mustard family, obviously, and it has 4 petals. The West Virginia white will lay its eggs on either toothwort or a garlic mustard, whatever's around. If they lay their eggs on the garlic mustard, the caterpillars won't be able to develop it. The plant is toxic to them. So in areas where there's a lot of garlic mustard, West Virginia white butterflies are declining. Here at Arcadia Dunes, the Conservancy has been controlling garlic mustard for probably 15 years. So we have hardly any garlic mustard in Pete's Woods, and the toothworts are helping the West Virginia white propagate. You probably know this plant, Trillium, large flowered Trillium, the common Trillium of northern Michigan. Like its name, it has 3 leaves and 3 petals. It's a plant that's slow to grow. When you plant a seed, it can take between 6 and 15 years for the plant to be large enough to bloom. But it's long-lived. They've been documented as old as 70 years old. In one season, they'll be in bloom for like 2 or 3 weeks, so it's long-lived. And the petals will start turning pink as the flowers age. So in the next week or 2, you'll start to see pink flowers. It's not a different species, but the same plant. One of the interesting things about Trillium and other plants here in the forest is seed dispersal by ants. So the Trillium will create a capsule of seeds after it's done blooming. And when those seeds develop, the stem will probably bend over, the capsule will burst, the seeds will fall to the forest floor. Well, Trillium seeds are little BBs that are like brown color, but they have this creamy color appendage called an elaiosome, which is a little packet of fats and proteins, which are like candy to ants. So what ants will do is they'll find some seeds of Trillium on the ground, and they'll carry them away to their underground colony. They'll eat the appendage, the elaiosome, but they don't really have any use for the seed. So they'll put that in their trash chamber, their trash chambers, which are underground, and which is actually an ideal place for the Trillium seeds to germinate. Besides being planted in good habitat, the ants will also benefit by the plant by dispersing the seeds and protecting them from predators. Trillium isn't the only plant in the forest that has seeds dispersed by ants. Others include trout lily, Dutchman's breeches and squirrel corn, bloodroot and hepatica, violets, and celandine poppy all use ants to disperse their seeds. This plant here is Bellwort. Has yellow flowers, long petals that hang down. They have a little twist to them. They were just starting to bloom the last time we were here, and now they're in peak bloom. The foliage looks kind of limp when the plant is in bloom, and then will perk up when they're finished blooming. These are getting a little perkier because the blooms are getting towards the end. While we were sitting here talking about the bellwort, I'm hearing a couple birds. That's the wood thrush, the eole, and then I heard a grosbeak. They have kind of a robinish song. Let's see if he sings again. Maybe the grosbeak left. This plant here is Celandine poppy, also called wood poppy. It's a native perennial. It's not the Eurasian celandine that looks similar. It's a showy yellow flower. There's drifts of it here in this valley. One thing that's kind of curious about this plant is the C value, or coefficient of conservatism. It's a scale from 1 to 10 that botanists have devised where they rate plants being either 10, they're very specific to habitat requirements, they don't tolerate disturbance, to 0, which would be a plant that grows in the cracks of a sidewalk, very tolerant to disturbance. A lot of the plants we see in our hike probably have C values of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This plant has a C value of 10, which would indicate that it doesn't do well with disturbance and does have specific habitat requirements. It does grow just in this one valley at Pete's Woods, so there may be something about this habitat right here that's unique. But I know that nurseries are able to propagate these, and people do plant them in their yards, so they seem to be a little bit flexible. Anyways, that's the C value 10 for the celandine poppy. This plant here is blue cohosh. It's in bloom. The blooms are just a yellowish green little small flower, but they'll turn into blue fruits later in the summer. The plant was used by Native Americans as an aid in childbirth, but parts of the plant are toxic. One nice thing, deer don't like it so much because it's toxic, but later in the summer they might eat it when the toxicity level is a little bit lower. The leaves are what I really like, nice foliage that's leaf shaped, kind of like meadow rue. It's blue cohosh. After you've learned all the large showy wildflowers in the forest, then the little tiny flowers will start to pop out at you a little bit more. This is one of the examples. This is an example. This is called small flowered buttercup or small flowered crowfoot. and it's in full bloom. Just has these tiny flowers with 5 tiny yellow petals. Small flowered crowfoot. Thanks for coming on the hike with me today. I hope you enjoyed the hike, the virtual hike, or that you can get out on your own in the forest near you or here. If you would like to get a guide to the wildflowers here at Pete's Woods, there's one on the website for the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy.